The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as Marcus Chen pushed his mop bucket down the polished marble hallway of Harrison Tech. At 11:30 on a Tuesday night, the building should have been silent, but urgent voices echoed from the executive conference room. He paused, wringing out his mop, as fragments of conversation drifted through the heavy oak doors. "We're talking about losing $40 million here, David. The Japanese delegation is furious about the mistranslation in the contract." Marcus continued mopping, his movements steady and practiced. 3 years of night shifts had taught him to become invisible, to work around the remnants of corporate crises without drawing attention. But tonight felt different. The panic in CEO David Harrison's voice was unmistakable. His phone buzzed with a text from his daughter Sophie. "Dad, I finished my math homework but I'm stuck on the Japanese characters for my World Cultures project. Can you help when you get home?" A small smile crossed Marcus's weathered face. At 8 years old, Sophie was already showing the same curiosity about languages that had once defined his own life. Before everything changed. Before the medical bills and the foreclosure notices and the desperate need for any job that paid immediately. "Where in the world are you watching from tonight? What time is it where you are as you listen to this story of hidden dreams and second chances?" Marcus squeezed the mop again and moved toward the next section of hallway, carrying with him the weight of his past and the hope that somehow, someday, his daughter would never have to hide who she really was. The clicking of heels against marble announced Janet Morrison's approach before Marcus saw her. The office manager emerged from the elevator, her expression sharp with irritation as she spotted him near the executive wing. "What are you doing up here?" she snapped, her voice cutting through the hallway's quiet. "The janitorial staff is supposed to finish the lower floors first." Marcus straightened, maintaining the respectful posture he had perfected over 3 years of similar encounters. "I'm sorry, Ms. Morrison. Mr. Harrison's assistant requested the executive hallway be cleaned tonight because of the early morning meetings." Janet's eyes narrowed. "Well, make it quick. And stay away from the conference room. There's sensitive business being discussed." She disappeared into her office, leaving Marcus alone with the familiar sting of dismissal. He had grown accustomed to being treated as furniture, a necessary inconvenience in the gleaming world of corporate success. Yet something in tonight's atmosphere felt charged with possibility. Through the conference room's frosted glass, he could see silhouettes gesturing frantically. The voices had grown more desperate in the past hour. Marcus understood enough to know that Harrison Tech was facing a crisis that threatened not just profits, but the jobs of everyone in this building. As he worked, his mind drifted to Sophie's homework question about Japanese characters. The irony wasn't lost on him that his daughter was learning the basics of a language he had once taught at the university level, back when his name was Dr. Marcus Chen and his opinions mattered in rooms just like the one behind those frosted doors. The elevator chimed softly as 3 men in impeccable dark suits stepped into the lobby. Marcus watched from his position near the security desk as they approached the night receptionist, their movements precise and purposeful. Even from a distance, he could sense their formality, the careful way they bowed slightly when introducing themselves. "Mr. Tanaka, Mr. Sato, and Mr. Yamamoto from Kyoto Industries," the receptionist announced over the intercom. "They're here for the emergency meeting with Mr. Harrison." Marcus felt his pulse quicken. He recognized the names from the heated phone conversations he had overheard. These were the Japanese executives whose partnership could save Harrison Tech from bankruptcy, or whose departure could seal the company's fate. Within minutes, David Harrison burst through the stairwell doors, his usually perfect hair disheveled, his tie askew. Behind him trailed his assistant Sarah, frantically checking her phone. "Where's our translator?" Harrison demanded. "Kenji was supposed to be here an hour ago." "Still stuck in traffic from the airport, sir. There's a major accident on the interstate. He says at least another 2 hours." Harrison's face went pale. "We don't have 2 hours. If we can't communicate properly with the Kyoto delegation, they'll walk away from this deal. And if they walk away, we're finished." The Japanese executives waited patiently in the lobby, their expressions neutral but expectant. Marcus could see the tension building like storm clouds, the careful politeness that would inevitably give way to disappointment and departure if no solution emerged soon. Marcus gripped his mop handle tighter as he watched the scene unfold in the lobby below. The Japanese executives were speaking quietly among themselves, their voices carrying the subtle undertones of growing impatience. He caught fragments of their conversation, understanding every word they exchanged about Harrison Tech's apparent lack of preparation and respect. "This is not promising," Mr. Tanaka was saying in Japanese. "Perhaps we should reconsider this partnership." His heart raced as the familiar weight of knowledge pressed against his chest. He could help. The language flowed through his mind as naturally as breathing, accompanied by years of cultural training that had once made him the university's go-to expert for international academic exchanges. But janitors didn't speak up in corporate crises. Janitors didn't offer solutions to million-dollar problems. Janitors especially didn't interrupt important business meetings to reveal they understood private conversations in foreign languages. Marcus thought of Sophie, asleep at their neighbor Mrs. Rodriguez's apartment. This job, humble as it was, paid for her food, her clothes, her school supplies. It was steady work in an uncertain world, and he couldn't risk losing it for a moment of pride or misplaced heroism. Yet as he watched Harrison pace frantically while the Japanese delegation grew more restless, something stirred deep within him. The same instinct that had once driven him to help struggling students now whispered that sometimes staying invisible wasn't the right choice. Sometimes the cost of silence was higher than the risk of speaking up. Janet Morrison emerged from the elevator with her usual air of authority, surveying the lobby chaos with obvious displeasure. Her gaze landed on Marcus, who was still positioned near the upper balcony, and her voice cut through the tension below. "You there," she called out sharply. "This is not the time for the cleaning crew to be wandering around gawking at company business. Go find something useful to do in the basement." Marcus felt the familiar heat of humiliation rise in his cheeks, but it was Harrison's response that surprised him. "Not now, Janet. We have bigger problems than the cleaning schedule." The dismissal in Janet's voice triggered memories Marcus had tried to bury. 3 years ago, when the medical bills started arriving like a daily avalanche. When his wife Sarah lay dying in the hospital bed, her insurance coverage mysteriously insufficient for experimental treatments. When the university quietly suggested he take a leave of absence that became permanent after he missed too many classes caring for her. Dr. Marcus Chen had published papers on East Asian linguistics. He had lectured to packed auditoriums about cultural bridges and international understanding. He had been respected, valued, heard. Now he was furniture to be moved out of the way during important moments. What part of this story resonates most with you? Have you ever felt invisible when you knew you had something valuable to offer? But as Marcus watched the Japanese executives check their watches with growing impatience, he realized that some moments demanded more courage than others. Some moments required risking everything you had left for something greater than yourself. The moment of truth arrived with quiet inevitability. Mr. Tanaka glanced at his expensive watch and spoke softly to his colleagues in Japanese. "We should leave now. This company clearly doesn't value our time or partnership." Marcus watched as the 3 executives began moving toward the exit, their polite bows to Harrison carrying the finality of a business relationship ending before it could begin. Harrison's face went ashen as he realized what was happening, even without understanding their words. "Wait, please," Harrison called out desperately. "Just give us a few more minutes. Our translator will be here soon." But Marcus could see in their body language what Harrison couldn't. They had already made their decision. In Japanese business culture, this level of disorganization was more than inconvenient, it was insulting. His feet began moving before his mind had fully committed to the decision. Down the stairs, across the marble lobby, past Janet's shocked expression and Harrison's confused stare. His heart hammered against his ribs as years of invisible existence collided with the moment that demanded visibility. "Excuse me," he said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper as he approached the Japanese delegation. Janet's sharp intake of breath cut through the lobby. "What do you think you're doing?" she hissed, moving to intercept him. Security needs to escort this man out immediately. But Marcus had already taken the step that would change everything. He straightened his shoulders, looked directly at Mr. Tanaka, and spoke the words that would shatter his carefully constructed invisibility forever. "Tanaka-san, Sato-san, Yamamoto-san," Marcus said, his voice carrying the perfect intonation and respect that years of academic study had ingrained in him. He bowed precisely, the depth and duration exactly appropriate for addressing distinguished business executives. "Hajimashite. Watakushi wa Marcus-chan tamashimasu." The lobby fell into absolute silence. Janet's mouth opened wordlessly. Harrison stood frozen, his eyes wide with disbelief. But it was the transformation in the Japanese executives that truly captured the moment's power. Mr. Tanaka's eyebrows rose in genuine surprise, and he responded automatically with a respectful bow of his own. "Chun-san, yoroshiku onegai shimasu." Marcus continued in flawless Japanese, his words flowing with the cultural sensitivity that had once made him invaluable in academic circles. "I deeply apologize for the delay and any inconvenience this evening has caused. Please allow me to explain that Harrison-san values this partnership tremendously, and the absence of proper translation services was entirely unforeseen." The three executives exchanged glances, their earlier impatience replaced by curiosity and growing respect. Mr. Sato stepped forward slightly. "Your Japanese is excellent, Chun-san. Where did you study?" Marcus felt the weight of every eye in the lobby upon him. The invisible janitor had become visible in the most dramatic way possible. Behind him, he could sense Janet's shock and Harrison's dawning realization that the man he had barely noticed mopping floors possessed skills that could save his company. Have you ever had a moment when you had to choose between staying safe and invisible, or stepping forward to help? Share your thoughts with our global community. "I studied at Columbia University," Marcus replied in Japanese, "then earned my doctorate in East Asian linguistics with a focus on Japanese business culture. I taught international relations for 7 years before circumstances changed." Mr. Yamamoto nodded thoughtfully. "Ah, Chen-sensei. Your expertise shows in your speech patterns. You understand not just our language, but our customs." Harrison stepped forward tentatively, his voice uncertain. "Marcus, I had no idea you spoke Japanese. Would you be willing to help us with these negotiations?" The question hung in the air like a bridge between two worlds. Marcus felt the familiar academic confidence stirring within him, the intellectual clarity that had once been his greatest strength. He turned to address the Japanese delegation directly. "Gentlemen," he said, seamlessly switching between English and Japanese to ensure both sides understood every nuance, "Harrison-san has asked me to facilitate our discussion tonight. The contract modifications you requested regarding the technology transfer protocols are indeed complex, but I believe we can find mutually beneficial solutions." For the next hour, Marcus transformed from invisible janitor into the skilled negotiator he had once been. He explained technical terms, clarified cultural misunderstandings, and navigated the delicate balance of international business with the expertise that had once filled university lecture halls. The Japanese executives relaxed visibly as communication flowed smoothly for the first time all evening. Harrison watched in amazement as his $40 million crisis dissolved into productive dialogue, guided by the man he had never truly seen until tonight. As the Japanese executives gathered their papers with satisfied expressions, Mr. Tanaka approached Marcus with a business card held in both hands. "Chen-sensei," he said formally, "it has been an honor to work with someone who truly understands both our language and our business philosophy. We look forward to continuing this partnership with Harrison Tech." After the delegation departed, Harrison stood in the now quiet lobby, studying Marcus with new eyes. The mop and bucket sat abandoned by the security desk, forgotten relics of a role that no longer seemed to fit the man before him. "Marcus," Harrison said slowly, "I need to ask you something. How does someone with a doctorate in linguistics end up working the night shift as a janitor? What happened?" The question Marcus had dreaded for 3 years finally arrived with surprising gentleness. He thought of Sophie sleeping peacefully, unaware that her father's world had just shifted on its axis. "My wife got sick," he said simply. "Cancer." The medical bills consumed everything we had saved, and then some. I lost the house, had to withdraw from my position at the university to care for her. After she died, I needed work immediately to support my daughter. This job paid right away, no questions asked about gaps in employment or references from a previous life. Harrison's expression softened with understanding. "And you've been here 3 years, invisible to all of us, while possessing exactly the skills we desperately needed tonight." Janet Morrison had remained silent throughout the exchange, her earlier arrogance replaced by something approaching shame as she witnessed the complete transformation of her assumptions about worth and capability. Harrison walked to the conference room windows, gazing out at the city lights as he processed the evening's revelations. When he turned back to Marcus, his expression carried the weight of a decision that would change both their lives. "Marcus, I want to offer you a position in our International Relations Department. Senior consultant, working directly with our Asian partnerships. The salary would be, well, significantly more than what you're earning now." Marcus felt his breath catch. The offer represented everything he had lost and never dared hope to regain. Professional respect, financial security, the chance to use his mind for something greater than maintaining floors and emptying trash bins. "But there are conditions," Marcus said carefully. "I need flexibility for my daughter. School events, medical appointments, the unexpected moments when an 80-year-old needs her father. I won't sacrifice being present for her again." Harrison nodded immediately. "Of course. Family comes first. We can arrange flexible hours, work-from-home options when needed. Sophie is your priority." Janet stepped forward hesitantly, her voice quieter than Marcus had ever heard it. "I owe you an apology," she said. "I saw only what I expected to see, not who you really are. That was wrong of me." The transformation wasn't just Marcus's. Everyone in that lobby had been changed by witnessing hidden worth revealed, by seeing how easily society overlooks extraordinary people living ordinary lives. If this story has touched your heart tonight, let us know where you're listening from around the world. Sometimes the most powerful changes happen when we finally see each other clearly. 3 weeks later, Marcus walked through the same marble lobby wearing a tailored suit instead of janitor's coveralls. The transformation felt surreal, like stepping back into a life he had mourned as permanently lost. His new office overlooked the city, with family photos of Sophie prominently displayed on his desk. The Kyoto Industries partnership had blossomed under his guidance, leading to additional contracts with companies throughout Asia. Harrison had been right about the salary. For the first time in years, Marcus could afford more than just survival. But the real change wasn't financial. It was the way people looked at him now, the way his colleagues sought his expertise, the way his daughter's eyes lit up when she visited his office and saw her father respected and valued. Sophie sat in his leather chair, spinning slowly as she examined the diplomas Harrison had encouraged him to retrieve from storage and hang on his walls. "Dad," she said with 80-year-old wisdom, "you were always smart. People just couldn't see it before." Marcus smiled at her simple truth. "Sometimes we have to wait for the right moment to show who we really are, sweetheart. But we should never stop believing in ourselves while we wait." The evening janitor nodded respectfully as he passed Marcus's office, their roles now reversed but their dignity equally intact. Marcus had learned that worth wasn't determined by job titles or social status, but by the courage to step forward when the moment demanded everything you had to give. In the end, being invisible had taught him the most valuable lesson of all: everyone deserves to be truly seen. 6 months after that pivotal night, Marcus stood before a packed auditorium at the local community college, delivering a guest lecture on international business communication. In the audience sat evening students, many of them working multiple jobs while pursuing their dreams, their faces reflecting the same quiet determination he had carried through his darkest years. "Your current circumstances don't define your ultimate worth," he told them, his voice carrying the authority of lived experience. "I spent 3 years invisible to the corporate world, but I never stopped being who I was inside. The skills, the knowledge, the capacity for greatness, they were all still there, waiting for the right moment. After the lecture, a young woman approached him, her janitor's uniform visible beneath her jacket. "Professor Chen," she said quietly, "I clean offices downtown while studying computer science. Sometimes people make me feel like I'm nothing. How do you keep believing in yourself?" Marcus smiled, remembering his own journey from Dr. Chen to Marcus the janitor to Dr. Chen once again. "You are already someone extraordinary," he told her. "The world just hasn't figured that out yet. But when your moment comes, and it will come, you'll be ready." That evening, Marcus helped Sophie with her homework at their new apartment, sunlight streaming through windows that faced east toward tomorrow's possibilities. She looked up from her Japanese workbook with pride in her eyes. "Dad, will you teach me more about different cultures? I want to help people understand each other like you do." If this story has inspired you tonight, please share it with someone who needs to remember their own hidden worth. Subscribe for more stories that celebrate the extraordinary in the ordinary, and let us know where in this beautiful world you're listening from.